Hello, BookTube. Can't sleep. It's getting close to 2:30 in the morning here, so I don't know what it is. Probably just the temperature change. It's getting a bit warmer. And it takes a while for it to cool down in my flat. So I thought I'd do another bookshelf tour. I may or may not upload it immediately, or I'll wait until the morning to do it. Well, it is morning, but later in the morning. So yeah, I'd asked where you wanted me to continue with, and I got votes mostly for the illustrations, so that's here. So we'll get to the library stuff, which is down here. Sorry, it's hard to figure out where to point. So let's start with the illustrations. Here is a big book. It's a Dictionary of British Book Illustrators and Caricatures, 1800 to 1914, by Simon Hoof. I think that's pronounced here, or Hoofe. It's done by Antique Collectors Club. So it's with an introduction chapters on the rise and the progression of the art by Simon Hoof. It's a dictionary, but over 200 pages is this introduction and history. So it goes up to 212 pages. And the rest, the dictionary, has an assortment of... It's just a small biographical information and a few titles that whatever artist / character artist did. But, an even full page as well. Now, we mentioned before, or I did anyway, not we, but I did, with a bookseller that was in St. Paul's Square, or Westminster, I think it was St. Paul's Square, that had named Standfast. Well, there was an illustrator as well in the 1840s that illustrated. Ones that I've been able to identify that he had done is a George Standfast. There was a Decameron. There was a Cooper poems, Shelley poems, and in here they spell the name incorrectly though. They call it Standfust, F-U-S-T. And there has been a long history of misspelling my surname and mispronouncing it for some reason. My grandfather used to say, because he was born here in the UK, and he said that he had to tell people even when he was in Canada and in the States, it's for them to spell it. He'd say stand fast, and they just looked blankly and they couldn't figure it out. And I still have that all the time. But he used to say, it's the opposite of sit slow. And then that usually confuses people more. But yeah, so he's G.B. Standfust in this book. So, but it says, draftsman and illustrated. He illustrated Shelley's poetic works in 1844 and drew humorous subjects. There's a delightful study of Count d'Orsay by this artist in the Wit Photo Library, which I'll have to look into. But it's a very, very short entry, but it's still kind of interesting because there must be some connection ancestor-wise. Now get that back on the shelf. Oh, I didn't say what year that was. That's 1978, revised 1981. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why do you need a dictionary? Because people have said that in the past. Why do you need a dictionary? Well, this one obviously has more than just a listing of people. But then again, you need to know what you're looking for with the internet. So, and not all the internet, like there's nothing really listed for this person, my assumed ancestor of some sort. And there'll be a lot like that. The internet is not perfect. And it'd be a good place to start. It's like with these here. I could peruse stuff and then go, oh, okay, I never heard of this person. But you can't just do that, with the internet. It's easy. Here's another one. It's illustration, yet not illustration. But I'm for lack of anywhere else in my collection, I'm sticking it here. 3 Vesalian essays to accompany the Iconis Anatomica of 1934. Now, it's talking about, this is New York, 1952, the Macmillan Company, by late Samuel W. Lambert, Willie Weingland, and William M. Ivins, Jr. Now, they're essays, but they're on a anatomical treatise. But the anatomical treatise has very good illustrations in it. Well, as you can see, I only paid, I think, £1 for this, and I haven't looked at it too much. I looked at it at the time, and it's mostly talking about the illustrations in it, so I have put it in the illustration section. Next one is a little book, The Illustration of Books by David Bland, Faber. Forgot this was in here. It's a little leaflet describing the book. 10 shillings, 6pence. Faber and Faber, an order form for it. That's kind of neat, And it's Ex Libris, Anthony Frederick Walker, and I've got other books from that person's library as well. And it's got other clippings that have been put in. And yeah, just other things here. It says from Folio, Winter 1956 Folio Society, Early English Woodcuts, Paul Oliver. Ooh, that looks interesting. The English Ghost in English History, or in English Literature, but I only got part of the article. So the illustration of books, Faber and Faber by David Bland, nice frontispiece, a miniature from the French Book of Hours of the 15th century, reproduced by 4-color process. Because this is a fairly early book, 1951 by the looks of it. And it's not that detailed, obviously. It just goes through a very, very cursory history of illustration in books. But it does have some nice, like 17th and 18th century, some nice plates. So let's put all this back in there. This one here, The History of Engraving, from its inception to the time of Thomas Bewick, which is a very interesting engraver. It's a little book by Stanley Austin. T. Werner Laurie is the publisher. Clifford's in London. 18 illustrations. And of course, you don't give me a date. Yeah, it doesn't give me a date, but it looks like it's pre-1930, I'm quite sure. But yeah, it's just another small history of engraving. And now we'll move on to the bigger ones here. The History of Book Illustration by David Bland. That's the big brother of the other one that I just showed you. This one has a tipped-in frontispiece that's quite nice of The Rohan Book of Hours, French, 15th century. This is Faber and Faber. It's the illuminated manuscript and the printed book. So it's a lot more detailed than the other. 1958. And it is full of illustrations in a lot of color. They're all tipped in, which is nice. It's a nice little feature. I just got this, might have been maybe in January. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, or go through it really in much detail. Here's a big history of engraving and etching from the 15th century to the year 1914 by Arthur M. Hind. It's without the jacket. It is published by Constable and Company. Second impression, 1927 originally. I think it's 1923, but it could actually be 1903, but I think it's 23. Just lovely illustrations in this engravings. And the subtitle is, being the third and fully revised, it says third revised edition. It says second impression in the back, on the copyright page. Being the third and fully revised edition of a short history of engraving and etching by Arthur M. Hind. 110 illustrations. Let's find some here that are nice. Ooh, sorry. It's just, it's full of ones. Illustrations all over the place, and it's got a listing of the engravers by country in the back, a whole section, so it's very, very detailed. Again, I haven't read it from cover to cover. Engraving Old and Modern. It's a nice dust jacket on this. By Percy M. Martindale. It's illustrated in Heath Canton Limited, 1928. Trying to remember what this is. Unique. Yeah, it's just it's just an engraver writing about other engravers and how it's done, basically. Not a detailed or technical book on it, but it's sort of a bit of history, how it's done, and even to collect a little bit on collecting. There's another one, History of Wood Engravings, which are always nice. That's by Douglas Percy Bliss, with 120 illustrations. J.M. Dent and Sons, 1928. Frontispiece. I do like wood engravings. They're very different from etchings, for sure. And here's a little biography of a specific wood engraver called Orlando Jewett by Harry Carter. It's very thin, so it's not much to it. It's Oxford University Press, 1962, and See here, Judd was an artist, wood engraver, who specialized in Gothic architecture. The Oxford movement and the popular phase of the Gothic revival, coming at a height of his career, 1799 to 1869, brought him into prominence. And yeah, nice engravings. There's quite a few in here. I like the architectural details that you find as well. There's more. And these are really cool. Not sure if I'm actually getting this on the screen or not. There we go. This one here, I don't know if it ever had a dust jacket. It's a directory of London lithographic printers, 1800 to 1850, compiled by Michael Twyman. It's Printing Historical Society, 1976, and it's exactly what it says. It gives a listing of the printers and their addresses even, so yeah, £2, and again, I'm not quite sure, but it sort of can go into my London collection, which is on the other side of this, if I wanted to. But here's it, and it actually goes in some ways with this book because it's the same author. Lithography 1800 to 1850 by Michael Twyman. As the techniques of drawing on stone in England and France and their application in works of topography. 1970, Oxford University Press. Trying to find, oh yeah, all the illustrations are in the back. It's a bit whiffy. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, so there's some nice. I'm gonna put that aside because I gotta check it to make sure there's no mold and whatnot on it. Illustrations of the 60s. Forrest Reed. It's no dust jacket, but it's a bit sun on the spine, but there's some beautiful, beautiful illustrations in here. It's a Faber and Guire Limited, London, and published 1928, J. Pinwell, Shadow and Substance. That's just quite amazing. The shadows in the water. Just the detail is quite amazing on most of these. This is Don Quixote. Yeah, it just goes on and on with many full-page ones as well. Let's get these back up there. English illustration The 90s, obviously the 1890s, James Thorpe, Faber and Faber. It's got the dust jackets, obviously. It is first published 1935. Nice frontispiece. Just getting a black and white newspaper clipping. Yeah, this is chock full of amazing. Oh, I just lost one there. Street seeds. These were in weekly papers, some of these. And that's the amazing thing. This is the kind of quality that would show up in a newspaper as well. And that's the interesting thing, that newspapers and every periodical would have these artists. They've been just jobbing artists, but at times, and produce whatever was wanted for the paper, but it really gave a lot of work to people. And then also, like, yeah, because for writers as well, that's all gone by the wayside now. Yeah, so it's just, this is chock full of stuff, and just page from Judy, a periodical at the time. Yeah, this doesn't quite fit in here, but it's the closest that I can get, unless I wanted to put it in an art section, is printmaking in Britain. Just beautiful color. And again, this was, like I say, I couldn't pass this up because it was only £2. But you see, this is from some books, so I am including this. That's William Blake, head of one of the doomed from Dante's Inferno. Don't know if that would have been colored or not. I think a lot of Blake's stuff should be colored, but this is too old. It would have been too expensive to do everything in color, but yeah, just some amazing print work. Well, that might be near the end of it here. Yes, that's the end of the illustration, so I've done that in one video, so I can start doing the library one. Well, I'll do these little bits here. There's sort of just a couple things on paper, and just sort of continue it on paper and binding. There's just a few books there, and then we go into the libraries. So I can probably do that tomorrow at some point. And I'm not sure if I'll upload this right now. It's about 3 o'clock. Just coming up to 3 a.m. here. I'll see. Anyway, take care, BookTube. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank you. Bye.